Well, welcome back to the video series called Embracing Your Kingdom Platform, How to Become a Leader That's Easy to Follow. I'm Dave Rhodes,
And I'm Shane Stacy.
and we have loved being your guides on this journey as we've tried to talk to you and train you in 5 critical skills that are necessary for you to maximize your impact and influence as a leader. We introduced you to the leadership star that starts with vision, this idea of where it is that we are going. We talked about voice. This is about who it is that we're going to lead, how to lead the right people, not just lots of people. We talked about vocabulary. What are we going to do? What's it look like? What is it that we're going to try to learn? Voyage. Here's what the journey's going to be like. And we talked about moving people through the dip. And with that, Shane, now we're ready to talk about vehicles. The last part of the leadership star. And by the way, when you join all these things together, it creates a star that, stars easy to follow kind of piece. So vehicle is the 5th component. You and I do a lot of traveling. We use lots of different kinds of vehicles to get to where we need to get to. And this is where we're going to pick up vehicle in the journey. So let's talk about travel just for a moment. Me and you, depending on where we're going, we might use several different vehicles to get there. Sometimes we use a plane.
Right. Sometimes a little Uber Mini Coupe, right?
Right. Yeah. Sometimes a car. That's usually a rental car that we get, right?
Right.
Sometimes when, I'm get to the Atlanta airport, I got to get a golf cart from where I park my car to get into the airport. That's another vehicle. Or, I've got to get on a train to go from one terminal to the other. So just in one trip, I might use 4 different kinds of vehicles.
Right.
But the key, and this is what this session is all about, is knowing what's the right vehicle for the journey that we're taking. Because if you try and use the same vehicle all the time, think about it this way. I love being on a plane when I'm going from Atlanta to Dallas. But a plane doesn't work very well to get me from the airport to my home. It'd be kind of inconvenient for me to land the plane in the neighborhood, right?
Right.
What I need is a car.
Right.
Sometimes what I need is a bicycle to get to where I need to get to. So where we're going and who we're taking helps us identify what's the vehicle that we need to get into to get to our desired destination, or what are the couple of vehicles that we need to use. So here, we're going to go back again to Jesus, because Jesus does this remarkably well. We're going to think about the vehicle, and in this session, we're going to bring it all together, give you a worksheet to help you every time you're leading to fill out using the leadership star that can help you focus and maximize your impact and influence.
Yeah, and Dave, this is, as we step into this and look at Jesus again, we don't have a specific text that we want to take you into, but I want us to, again, think about the life of Christ. And if you think about the life of Jesus, and we've been saying that all along the way, not just looking, at the words of Jesus, but we start looking at the way that Jesus trained and developed, you actually start to see Jesus had multiple vehicles. He had different kind of, we're going to call social spheres in which he was engaging people in. Of course, you can think of the crowds, and that's usually probably where our minds go to the most when we think of, it's the Sermon on the Mount, it's the crowds that gathered, they were pushing in, they were going to crush him and things. And there were different things that Jesus was doing with the crowds. He knew he could inspire the crowds. He could teach in the large crowds. But then we also see that Jesus had the 72. That we saw there in Luke chapter 10. And we see that kind of space, what he's doing with the 72. He's training with them. We see them gathered in certain places along the way. But then you also see, of course, the 12, and we're all real familiar with the 12 and what Jesus is doing with his disciples, that he's giving the most amount of his time to. He's spending lots of different time with them throughout the journey. And then we see the 3, and Peter, James, and John. And it's really interesting, again, when you see what's happening with Peter, James, and John. With Peter, James, and John, Jesus is actually taking them sometimes into some of his most intimate moments. I think the Mount of Transfiguration, before he's getting ready to, go to the cross, and there's just kind of those last couple months, Jesus is pulling those three up again with him. Or in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he's at his lowest point, Jesus is pulling the three of them close. Other times, he's revealing to them things that he's not maybe revealing to everybody else, like, hey, come with me as I raise this dead girl. And so we see Jesus interacting and functioning between these four different groups, and he's expecting or anticipating different things, or he's engaging in different ways as he's discipling. He doesn't use just one vehicle. He's not just working with the crowds. He's not just in a space with the 72, or sometimes what we call oikos, that family side of things. So there's different benefits that we want to look into here. And again, we describe this as social spaces. And so, Dave, where does this come from? We've seen it in Jesus. Where does this come from, and how do we make this useful as we think about the leadership star?
Yeah, so this idea of social spaces was popularized by Joseph Myers in his book called The Search for Belonging. And if you haven't read that book, I encourage you to read that and talk about that. And Joseph Myers basically said people, to have a sense of belonging, need to actually find connection in four different spaces. Also, another great resource on this is the Dandelion Group with Alex and Hannah Absalom. They just have done some incredible work on this. Some of the stuff that we're going to share with you here comes from the work that they've done as well, yeah. Joseph Myers. But Joseph Myers says people need to connect in four different spaces. And here's the spaces, and then we can talk about what they best deliver. The first one is what we call public space. This is, a group of over 100. And in this space, it best delivers things like inspiration, proclamation, momentum. You can think about this as Sunday morning. That's what Sunday morning is best capable of delivering. It's inspiration, proclamation, momentum. And we need that space in our lives to help us grow. So this is public space. Second space then would be social space. This is 20 to 70 people. Like Shane said already, this is a kind of missional family, what we call oikos. Think about extended family, the aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers. That's, Thanksgiving is a great, kind of idea for social space. It's where mission and practice and training happens. Great space for training because you can break people up and you can have them try some things. What we say about social space is it's big enough to care, but small enough. I mean, big enough to dare, but small enough to care. In a group of 20 to 70, you're going to find some people who are like you. You don't have to connect with everyone to connect with someone. And it's big enough that when you go somewhere, you do something, it makes a little bit of disturbance. So social space is the 20 to 70. Thirdly, we've got personal space. This is 7 to 12. This is great for support and challenge and closeness. This is a great place for discipleship to happen. You've got a group that is small enough to really get intimate on some things, but also and then finally here is this kind of private or intimate space. That's the fourth space here. That's 1 to 3 people. This is great for transparency, intimacy, accountability. Another great space for discipleship to happen so that you can speak honestly with one another and hold people accountable. Again, you see this in Jesus's life, the 3, the 12, the 72, and the public. And what we want to say here is that as a leader now that you are calling people onto the journey, what's the right space for you? And that may change over time, but with the group of people that God's revealing to you and the vision that you have, do you need, an intimate space? You're just going to get a triad of people, 1 to 3 people. Do you need a more small group or huddle, which is 7 to 12 people, a vehicle that will help you with that kind of personal space? Do you need a vehicle to help you with the social space because you're trying to reach your neighborhood and you're going to have 20 to 50 people that are going to be in your house, but you need a vehicle for social space? Or do you need one for public space because you're reaching over 100 people? Well, this is where we want to make some decisions, right, Shane?
Yeah, this is big because each of these spaces have things that they best deliver, but they also have limitations to it, right? And I think one of the mistakes that we often see, and then leaders, I think, often face is you immediately, all of us want more, right? So because we want more, we want to repeat or multiply the public space. And yet there's, again, we're naming, there's things that it's great at. It's great at inspiration. It's great at proclamation. It's great at building momentum, but it's not going to do so well on training. It's not going to do so well on development. It's not going to do so well on getting into some of the things that we've talked about in the leadership star of where's that person at in the big space. I don't know. I can give them information, I can inspire them, but I don't really know where that person at. I don't know if they're what they're experiencing. Are they moving through the dip or not? And I can just kind of blindly, move through that. So some of what we want to identify is what is it that people, because of where we're leading them, what is it that they may need most? Or, Dave, is there a combination of vehicles that we may need
Right.
because of what we're trying to develop people in and what we're trying to build out together? So one of the first decisions that we have to identify is to choose the space or spaces that you'll need according to the group that you're trying, what you're trying to accomplish with that group of people and what you're trying to build out together. And again, often you're going to need a combination of spaces to do that.
The biggest mistake that people make on this when they're leading is because they've seen public space so much, their tendency is to think in every space we need to do what we do in public space. So all of a sudden you get into a personal space like a small group and it's a great vehicle, but what people don't need is someone preaching to them in small group.
Right.
There's a skill set that goes along with leading that. The other thing is that we have a tendency whenever God places something on our heart to immediately move the public space. We need to get this to over 100 people, but when really we might need to start with the 3, the 12, and the 72. We start to think, as pastors and leaders, a lot of times that we can accomplish everything, from the platform. We can't. We
Yeah.
need all 3 of these, all 4 of these spaces. And like you said, Shane, sometimes when we're creating training, like when you and I create training, we know that's going to happen in the social space, but we're going to use personal and intimate space as well
Right
in that
within it, right?
training over the
We're going to
course of a
break
day.
people into groups.
Yeah,
We're going to move people with a friend. And
right.
part of what you're doing there, literally in those moments, we're actually modeling that you could do this in a smaller context, with someone else as well. And also, again, what does that space best deliver?
Yeah. So you're making 2 decisions here as you're leading people, as you have identified where you're headed and who you're leading. What's the space and the vehicle that you need to pick to go along with that? And then the second decision you're making here is it going to be in person? Is it going to be virtual or is it going to be hybrid?
Yeah, this is
So is
beautiful.
this something where you need to be together?
Yeah.
Is this something that you could do online in a Zoom kind of deal, or do you want to combine these things? Right, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, we've done this with multiple leaders along the way, and COVID obviously brought us up in a
Right.
hybrid world, right? Which is actually fantastic because we got lots of busy people, and I think of in both of us have done this in different kinds of ways, but more recently we've had a group of people where we did hybrid. What I mean by hybrid on that is we were pulling the leaders together for a dinner once a month, men and women together and things, and then we were moving into a virtual space in between because they're busy. Some of them had younger families and things, and it was just easier to click in. And so Dave, it's so fun. You have the ability today to not get stuck in only one way of doing that. We have to be in person, or it only can be virtual, but we can do a mix of in between.
Great. So this is the last piece of the leadership star. We want to spend the rest of this session bringing it together. You've got a worksheet that you downloaded, hopefully, and we want to give you an example of how to bring all this together, what that might look like. And then we want to, help you equip you to do that. So if you have your worksheet, go ahead and pull that out now, because I want to walk you through a scenario that brings all 5 of these things together, from vision all the way to vehicle. I remember a couple of years ago, we were in the middle of COVID and our church was shut down like most of the churches across America were. And so we were recording Sunday morning worship, and then we were breaking into driveway churches where we could socially distance, but at least have some kind of form of community. And so my wife and I started a driveway church. We had people from our neighborhood, people from our church that were part of it. And several of these people, while we were going through a series on purpose, had identified that they didn't know what their purpose was. They didn't know what they were created to do. And so I took this time to invite several of them into a deeper relationship for discipleship. And I used the Leadership Star tool to help me do it. I want to walk you through that so you can see the way these 5 things play together, even into a invitation toward discipleship. So let's just play as if I'm inviting Tom into a disciple making relationship. And so I pull Tom aside and say, "Hey, Tom, I know in the times that we've had together here, you've voiced several times that you would love to know what your purpose is. I want to tell you, I can help you find that. So many times we spend our lives with all the things that we can do, but we don't know what is the one thing that we must do with our life. Tom, I can help you on a journey that I could take you on a journey that will help you find that, name that, and not only do that, align your life more with what it is that you're called to do." That's vision. Voice. Tom, the reason I'm having this conversation with you is because, we've been part of this Driveway Church and I've enjoyed getting to know you. We've kind of cultivated a relationship here, and I just kind of sense maybe that God's bringing us together for a season. There's no pressure on this. I'm going to be inviting several other people to be part of a group that we're going to be starting to help people discover their purpose. There's no pressure, but there's an incredible invitation. So I sense that maybe for this next season, I'm supposed to invest in you for a little bit and would love to do that. That's voice. Vocabulary. We're going to be going through this thing that we call unique. It's a process that has lots of different tools on it and assessments. We're going to be walking through this together. It's a 12-week journey to help you understand your what and your why, what it is you're called to do and why you're called to do it. It's a 12-week journey to help you understand your how and how do I do this and when am I successful and where am I headed. And so I would love to have you be part of this whole thing, but it's the unique journey that we're going to be part of, and that's vocabulary. Voyage. Now, I got to tell you, Tom, in this, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be some ups and some downs. There's going to be some things that, you go through that I'm going to press you into that are some discovery things that might be difficult at times. But I can tell you at the end of this thing, it's going to be totally worth it. Hey, Cameron, come over here and talk about the time that we went through Unique together and tell Tom here for a moment what that was like. And then Cameron will come and share the story about how, man, there were moments where I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do, but Dave coached me through it. And man, on the other side of this, here's the clarity that I have. That's voyage. Vehicle. So I'm going to be starting this cohort. It's Sunday night at 8 p.m. There'll be about 10 or 12 of us in this online group. It's going to meet from 8 to 9:15 every Sunday night virtually, but it's an invitation into life. So we're going to be doing lots of life together. There'll be times that invite you over to the house just to hang out or different things like that. But from 8 to 9:15, I need you to make a commitment to be there and to be part of this whole thing. Again, it's online, so you don't have to worry about getting your kids settled or anything like that. We'll be doing that virtually, but it's an invitation into life. I can't invest in everyone in our church, but I do choose 8 to 12 people that I want to invest in each year, and I'd love for you to be a part of it, but it's going to be Sunday night at 8 p.m. That's vehicle. So I hope you see the way that when we bring these things together, they create an opportunity to be someone who is easy to follow. If any one of them is missing, it'll be harder to follow me. But when they're all put together, they create an on-ramp that allows someone to follow you in a way that will be effective.
Fantastic. Here's what we want you to do as we kind of pull this together. Want to encourage you to take this Catalytic Conversation worksheet and pull everything together that we've been walking through and create maybe I just call it a narrative. It's like it's your first pitch. It's not because we're not doing this because we want it to be wooden in any kind of way, but there is, like everything we said in training, there is a sense of practice, and there'll be a greater confidence if you've walked through and said, I've got a clarity of who I'm trying to invite into this. What's the vision I'm calling them to? Can I tell them a little bit about the process or what we'll be engaging in on the vocabulary, what the journey will be like, and then this is the vehicle. This is the kind of the space that they can expect on that. So, want to encourage you to walk through that and kind of build that out together, and even share it with someone. If you've been going through this with another group, even share that with someone along the way. And then I double dog dare you. I double dog dare you to find someone that one of those persons of peace, and ask them. Have that catalytic conversation with them and see what God might do.
Yeah, so we've had a great time being with you on this journey. This is a tool that you can use all the time. It's not a one-time tool; it's an all-the-time tool. Especially if you're in communication, this is a great thing to just say, "Hey, have we checked all these boxes before we send this email out, or before we make this announcement?" If you're training people on announcements at your church, this is a great thing to lead them through, to think about how to create a 1-minute announcement. If you're doing something on Facebook, or that you're just trying to do a 1-minute video on, does it check all the boxes? So this is a tool, again, picture mirror window. We hope it opens up your eyes to how to lead in all kinds of different ways. So again, I'm Dave Rhodes, and this is Shane Stacy, and we have enjoyed bringing you through this journey. We hope you found it helpful. You can find us at clarityhouse.us, clarityhouse.us, if you want to continue conversation. And we look forward to you being the leader. That's easy to follow. And we are so thankful that you've invested in this journey. And we can't wait to hear your stories about how God uses you to lead.